The mission of Well Aware 1 is to expose actors that overstep their moral and ethical boundaries. By that I mean the ones that knowingly take part in productions that are eventually used to fool the population into believing that an event that they see on the news is real when it's not. This is a form of artificial social engineering. And by artificial, I mean it's not even a real event that somebody could stage for there to be any social engineering. It's a fictitious event that then is used to artificially manipulate your sense of reality. Don't believe me? Well, let me give you a few examples of how these actors are manipulating you. Trayvon Martin. The situation you believe is being used to manipulate a race war. Well, it's not. It's being used to push gun legislation, as all their other events are as well.
We have to come together to protect our children. I'm asking you to consider sharing this message with the governor of your state that has a similar stand your ground law. Ask them to review these dangerous laws. If we do, next year, thousands more dads will have a happy Father's Day.
See, here's the deal about Trayvon's dad. He's not who he says he is. And in fact, he's not even from this country. So that in itself should tell you a lot about why these people are pushing this gun legislation to try to get you to be unarmed and vulnerable. It'll make sense if you don't know what I'm talking about.
I suppose on some level, every actor aspires to be a chameleon, and by that measure, few are as gifted as Idris Elba. Think about it. He's nailed it as an American gangster.
I gotta remind who the you work for.
A British detective.
Everyone, take cover!
A temporary boss at a paper company.
Okay, so we're on the same page. Great.
Okay, so we're on the same page. Great.
Okay, Michael.
Okay, Michael.
No,
what
seriously.
Beyonce's husband.
You are so bad.
And a Norse frickin' god.
Do you think that you can deceive me?
Now, the real Idris Elba moved to the U.S. from London, the city where he grew up, and his big break came on what might have been the greatest TV series ever, at least it was to me.
Man, we done worrying about territory, man, what corner we got, what project. Game ain't about that no more. It's about product.
That is The Wire. He was Stringer Bell, and he did it with such a dead-on American accent, nobody had any idea he was British.
Adjourn your ass.
You also need to understand that when an actor gets a job, it's not their business to debate what they're going to say. It's in the script. They're hired to do a job. They're hired to act. That's what they do. So these actors are just doing their job, or that's what they'll say when time comes to hold them accountable. There is that ethical boundary that I believe an actor must abide by. And more importantly, the producers of the product that they're actually performing in have to adhere to. The use of these actors to create events that are fictitious, depending upon, of course, the severity of the event, should be looked at in a similar way as a domestic terrorist would use violence or the threat of violence to achieve their goal of political change. They're doing the same thing. They're creating a scenario that in your perception you believe to be real, and therefore you act on that scenario, thinking that you're doing the best thing to protect yourself and your family. My personal opinion is the producers of this crap need to be held as domestic terrorists. Here are some more of the actors that have chosen to cross the ethical boundaries and further proving the point that the whole Trayvon Martin hoax is a non-event.
Cephas Johnson flew from California to Central Florida because he says he had to be here on day one of the George Zimmerman trial. His nephew, Oscar Grant, was killed by a transit police officer in Oakland while handcuffed and face down. For that reason, he says he empathizes with the Trayvon Martin family.
That pain resonated so bad that we knew
biggest
as a
blights
family
on
that
the way this country started, you know, slavery and the genocide of the Native Americans and the...
Here we see a photograph of Trayvon Martin's alleged mother. It is claimed to be current and was taken just recently at the ESPY Awards. The following image you're about to see was taken back in '05. The person that the photograph was taken of is the mother of the Greenbergs' babysitter, Chi-Chi. You'll note that she has had her teeth done since then. The photograph comes from the Greenbergs' personal family photo album that I uncovered and published. You also recognize her as the individual that plays the role of Lori Fitzpagato. That name may sound familiar if you're familiar with the nurse Naira, the person who testified in Congress to get us into the Gulf War about the babies in the incubators. Well, that nurse Naira is also a family member that goes by Arden Vole. She's played many other roles as well, and this one you might recognize from the DC Sniper hoax. And like I've always said, when you find one of these family member actors, you are bound to find more, because they never work alone. And in fact, we see this person, who you may recognize from the Trayvon Martin incident. Now, before we go on to the rest of the individuals that are involved in this, I want you to take a look at this photo. As a photographic expert, one of the jobs that you have is to identify and authenticate the photographs that you're given. Along with that, one of the things that you would like to do is to date the photograph. Now, after you run different tests on the photo and make sure that there's no layers put in or the person hasn't been masked in there, and you do an error level analysis on it, and you can get to the point where you feel comfortable in that photo is genuine, you then look at the contents of the photograph. And with this one thing that I clued into immediately was, of course, the Dairy Queen signs in the background. So using these context clues, you get an idea sometimes about when a photograph was taken. Now, if we are to believe that the individual in this photograph is Trayvon Martin, and he is to be a certain age, and we look at the sign in the background and we see what's being advertised on that sign, it's not very hard to do some research and find out when that Peanut Buster Parfait was offered at Dairy Queen. We find out that it was offered in 1971. And the individual in this photograph, we can say, is probably around 6 to 8 years old. That would put his birth date at around 1965, approximately. I don't believe that this is a photograph of the person that they're telling us is involved in this case. And in fact, when you look at this photograph, it's a possibility that it is actually President Obama's photograph when he was young. Look at the face, look at the characteristics, and look at the ears. It's a very good chance that this is a photograph of him when he was younger, which of course is their typical MO. They love to shove it in our face and laugh at us. But you want to bet that they're not laughing as much after they see this video? The information that you find in this video, as well as the investigations that are posted on WellAware1.com, are made possible by the support from our followers. Please remember to visit the website frequently, and you will see the updates as we post them. You can also subscribe to my Facebook account and communicate with others that are involved in the investigation. We do have plans to post a forum on WellAware One that will allow you to participate and contribute to the work, and also communicate with myself and my team.